Lith's original plan was to kill all of them, erase the evidence, and then murder his brother. However, after calming down, he realized that he needed to come up with a better plan. If 5 boys suddenly disappeared from the village, it's bound to raise some questions. Plus, Orpill knows they were here. Once he discovers they're gone, he might become suspicious. And I can't have that. I don't want him to have any kind of leverage over me. There's also the possibility that these idiots shared their plans with their siblings, so killing them would only bring bigger problems for me. And I can't make Orpill disappear because then the whole family would grieve for him, and the last thing I want is to turn him into a martyr. I want him to pay. I need to make him suffer for the rest of his miserable life, he thought. While he planned what to do next, Lith kept releasing streams of lightning to torture his assailants. They had already lost control of their bowels. Now they were just sobbing and begging for mercy. I need to make all of these bastards pay, he thought. Lith made sure to pace himself between each shock. That short interval made the boys think that their torture was finally over, making their agony all the sweeter when Lith began zapping them again. This also served another purpose. By waiting between shocks, Lith made sure that the boys' bodies didn't get used to the pain. He ensured that every bolt of lightning hurt as much as the first one did. Punishing them is not enough. I want to break them, he thought. There were too many variables, and Lith was sick of thinking. He decided to return to the childhood revenge plan he'd first made back on Earth, albeit with a few modifications. With a final shock, he made the boys lose consciousness and arranged their bodies using spirit magic. I must keep both spirit and fusion magic a secret, so I need to create a scenario that could have succeeded just using common magic, he thought. After moving the bodies, he put the wooden stick in Rizzle's hand, making sure it was smeared with blood. He was in the final stages of the plan when he heard someone calling his name from afar. Damn, I wasted too much time thinking. My family must have sent someone looking for me. This messes up a good portion of my plan, but I need to go through with it. I just hope they didn't send Orpill or things could get ugly, he thought. Lith looked through the window and spotted Alina walking towards the house. Good, it's Mom. I can work with this. When she was within earshot, Lith started to moan, slowly opening the door and begging for help. Alina ran towards her son. Once she walked through the door, she was confronted with a horrific scene. There was blood everywhere, teeth on the ground, and Lith was almost unrecognizable. His face was bloodied and swollen to the point that his eyes were barely visible amidst the bruises. Lith held his left arm in pain, and every time he opened his mouth, blood would come out of it. Mom, thank the gods it's you, he said in a distorted voice. I was so afraid that they would get up before I could call for help. They tried to kill me, and I barely made it. Alina embraced him, feeling him quiver from the pain he was feeling. My baby, my poor baby, who did this to you? The two of them started to cry at the same time. Alina because of how bad her son looked, and Lith because of all the rage and fear he had felt. It was Orpill. It's his fault. They're his friends and they told me their plan when they were beating me. Alina was shocked by that statement. She couldn't believe such a horrible thing, but she knew that the 5 boys were Orpill's closest friends. One of them, Rizzle, was even holding his grandfather's wooden stick, which was coated in blood. Alina looked at Lith's head and spotted the bruises the stick had made. Why would they assault you? She asked. Among all the sobbing and crying, Lith was smiling. His plan was working. Little by little, his mother was piecing together all of the facts. Can you heal yourself? She asked, worried. She wanted him to recover as soon as possible from this dire state. I could, but I won't. Why? Alina asked, confused. Because I want you and Dad to look at what Orpill did to me when you decide what to do with him. He coughed a mouthful of blood, and more teeth came out. Orpill had always hated me, and he always will. No matter how much I help around the house, no matter how much food and money I bring to the table, it doesn't count. Nothing is ever enough for him, he cried. Am I such an awful son? Such a terrible brother? That I deserve something like this? Lith hugged his mother tightly while sobbing. Alina didn't know what to say. She embraced her son, lifted him, and carried him back to their house. Then, she brought the whole family to Celia's house to let them witness the gruesome scene. She couldn't hide such a serious matter. When Orpill saw Lith, he almost fainted. Alina refused to call him by his name, and glared at him in such a way that he knew he should keep his distance.
What happened? Those morons knew the plan. They only had to rough him up a little and teach him respect, humility, and to keep his mouth shut. Now I'm in deep trouble and my parents will never let me hear the end of it,
Orpill thought. When Orpill saw the scene at Celia's house, he felt that his life was going to end. When Raz saw Lith, he embraced him and checked his condition. He then went to Celia's house and recognized Orpill's friends. Rena, go call their parents. Take Tista with you. I don't want her to hear what I'm about to say. Raz was furious, clenching his fists so hard that his nails dug into his palms and he started to bleed. Alina had told him that Orpill had been the mastermind behind this. At first, he'd refused to believe that one of his beloved children could do something like that. But the facts were indisputable. No one outside the family knew that Lith worked for Celia. No one else could have known that Lith was going to be alone at the house on that day. But the most painful truth of all was the fact that only Orpill resented Lith enough to do this. Lith didn't really know anyone outside the family, and he was always working so hard to help the family, especially Tista, that he didn't have time to meet people. Raz felt like his head was splitting in two, but he needed to know the truth from his son. He looked Orpill straight in the eyes and asked, "Did you do it?" A terrible silence fell over the room, revealing the truth that Raz could no longer deny. "How could you do such a horrible thing to your brother?" Raz asked Orpill, tears streaming from his eyes.
Dad, I swear it's not what you think. I can explain,
Orpill said, trying to find some plausible explanation. "There's nothing to explain. Are those your friends?"
Yes, but...
Didn't you tell them what to do? Wasn't it you that planned this whole thing? Your brother was almost beaten to death. How can you possibly explain that?
Because that wasn't the plan! They didn't listen to me! No one does! You never listen to what I say or let me have my way! You always side with the leech and the cripple! You're never on my side! Never!
So your explanation is that they got carried away? Raz didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Do you mean to tell me that ambushing and beating your brother was perfectly fine as long as it was done in moderation? Raz raised his fist, tempted to give Orpill a taste of his own medicine, but Alina stopped him.
Too much blood has already been shed today. Besides, he's beyond saving.
Alina was crying too, but her voice was cold and neutral. She had already decided what needed to be done. Raz sat down on the nearest chair and wept. "You're right, my love. I've tried and tried to make him understand that respect is something that must be earned. That, as his parents, we're supposed to create limits and help him understand and correct his mistakes, not enable them. The gods know that I have tried to teach him humility, that his siblings are not his servants. I know I haven't been the perfect father, but I did the best I could. I don't know what to do with him anymore, Alina," Raz said, wiping his tears.
I know. Even now he doesn't show any kind of remorse. He never loved his brother. He stole his food and called him names even before Lith was able to walk. He's clearly unable to understand the severity of his actions. I believe that if we allow this to continue, he'll do it again. If not to Lith, then to Tista. I'm not going to let him harm anyone else in our family.
She grabbed Raz's hand and held it tight, looking for support.
I think we should disown him. Strip him of his name and report him and his accomplices to the village militia for attempted murder.
You're right. It's what we must do, Raz said with newfound resolve.